Amir Yahya Ayatollahi is an Iranian PhD candidate of political science at Feshta University. Did I pronounce it correctly? Yes? Okay. Feshta University in Germany. He graduated from the Islamic seminary at Qom in Iran. He received his BA in philosophy from Mufid University of Qom and his MA in Western philosophy from Shahid Beheshti University of Tehran. He's written on topics such as the Iranian political history, criticism of the contemporary intellectual discourses, and political philosophy. Please put your hands together for our dear speaker.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for having me, and it's my honor to have this chance sharing my opinions with you. My topic for tonight is the boundaries of academic freedom in doing theology in educational system after the Islamic Revolution in Iran. So we speak about three chapters. First, what is academic freedom, the definition of academic freedom, and the relation, the second chapter, the relation between theology and politics in Iran. And as the last chapter, we speak about the systematic violations against theological academic freedom. So, what is academic freedom? Here I would like to mention the definition of academic freedom based on the UNESCO document of 1997. Academic freedom is the right without constriction by prescribed doctrine to freedom of teaching and discussion, freedom in carrying out research, and disseminating and publishing the results thereof, freedom to express freely their opinion about the institution or system in which they work, freedom from institutional censorship, and freedom to participate in professional and representative academic bodies. Those two people is just some professors, one as a cleric and another one in modern suit, but also with clerical mind. So the second chapter is a little bit longer. The relation between theology and politics in Iran. To understand the theological educational system in Iran, first we need to perceive the nature of the Islamic Republic, which is the guardianship of the jurist. This Shia sovereignty does not allow any kind of liberty, whether it is personal or public. The Islamic Republic has some specific theological foundations derived from the revolutionary transition from scholastic theology to political ones. Actually, Khomeini made the Shia sovereignty to seize the power with the divine legitimacy. Now we will focus on some characteristics of the Khomeinist political theology, its distinction from academic theology, and its consequences in the real life of Iranians. For example, indicating the most important article of the Islamic Constitution can clarify the relationship of politics and theology in the current political system of Iran. This is the Article 2. The Islamic Republic is a system based on belief in the one God, as stated in phrase, there is no God except Allah, his exclusive sovereignty and the right to legislate, and the necessity of submission to his commands, and then believe in divine revelation and its fundamental role in setting forth their laws. We have also three other articles from the Islamic Constitution. Article 16, since the language of the and Islamic texts and teachings is Arabic, and since Persian literature is truly permitted by this language, it must be taught after elementary level in all classes of secondary school and in all areas of study. Article 24, publications and the press have freedom of expression except when it is detrimental to the fundamental principles of Islam or the rights of the public. By the rights of the public, they mean the rights of the mullahs. Article 175, the freedom of expression and dissemination of thoughts in the radio and television of the Islamic Republic of Iran must be guaranteed in keeping with the Islamic criteria. Very clear. So, the Khomeini's theology has four major characteristics which shaped the whole body politic after 1979. It is Islamic, it is Shia, it is authoritative, and it is clearly anti-Western. I skip this one because it's not important so much. So what do we mean by political theology? It is important to mention that we discussed political theology here as a sign of the Islamic State in Iran. Otherwise, the very political theology is also an academic discipline since the 20th century. Whatever we say in this presentation is about the embodied political theology in an Iranian sovereignty after collapsing the Pahlavi monarchy in 1979. Our subject is a Khomeini's theology as a political theology and also as a body politic. So the difference. There are three main differences between academic theology and Khomeini's political theology. The academic theology is argumentative, while the Khomeini's political theology is supposed to prove some religio-political dogmas. Therefore, the academic theology is based on research, and the Khomeini's political theology is based on bigotries. It is worth to mention that in scholastic or traditional theology, the purpose was also to prove religious claims. However, the situation in political theology generally and in the Khomeini's theology particularly is worse. We're seeing here more religiosity, more complexity, and more ideological dogmas. You can constitute an atheist theory under the academic theology. For example, some glorious works of G.L. Mackie, Australian philosopher born on 1917 and died in 1981. He wrote his famous works on the criticism of theism and defending rational atheism. One of his most important works is The Miracle of Theism, Arguments for and Against the Existence of God. However, the Khomeini's political theology designed not only to defend the general Islamic beliefs, but also, and it's more important, to prove and guards the political axioms of the Islamic State. It is not even the old scholastic theology, but rather an ideological interpretation of the scholastic theology. For example, a high-rank Ayatollah, a high-rank cleric, from the top clerics in Qom, the most religious city in Iran, who deny Khomeini's shift in the Shia discourse, has no chance to live freely in Iran, rather than express his ideas among his believers or in media. Now, the consequences of this political theology we inherited from Ayatollah Khomeini. First, the circle of inclusion of the concept of Muslims became limited to those who accepted the Khomeini's theory and then obeyed the supreme leader. The second, is that the real and actual perception on ideas and society is vanished in Khomeini's political theology. For example, it is rare to publish a book from an atheist or dissident figure in Iran. However, at the same time, you can find many responses and reactions against those figures and ideas in the bookstore, media, and magazines. It is just like to set up a trial without the presence of the defendant or the accused person, while the judge and prosecutor are sentencing him or her to death, and there is also no jury to represent the common sense at the court. So, unfortunately, actually, this happens every day in the judicial system of Iran, but you can consider it also in the intellectual, academic, and cultural atmosphere created by the mullahs. The next consequences of this theology, this political theology of Khomeini, is presenting a wrong image of the Western intellectual situation. And this is an Iranian cleric walks past the mural on the wall of the former US embassy in Tehran. Some of the low-ranked philosophers in Western culture travel to Iran because what? Because they present a conservative religious views in the form of new epistemology, in the form of neo-Christian reformation, in another word. Some figures like Alvin Carl Plantinga, American analytic philosopher born on 1932, and he is still alive, who argues that belief in God is properly basic. It's really interesting for religious intellectuals and also for the mullahs that someone says believing in God doesn't need any reason, doesn't need any argument. It's basic. So the most ideological clerical institution in Qom invited them and still invest on their ideas. On the contrary, it would be a miracle that an atheist philosopher has a chance to come to Iran and present his or her ideas. The surprising point is that most of the religious intellectuals in Iran are hand in hand with conservative clerics to promote the idea of those Christian conservative philosophers. Both of them are in one coalition to apply the neo-Christian narratives to Islam or to drive the incoherent narrations from Islamic sources in accordance with the Christian reformations. By incoherent narrations, I mean without any concern to methodology and the fundamental difference between Islam and Christianity. Sometimes a work of an atheist philosopher has published with many Islamic comments and objections in the footnotes of every page. It is ridiculous, but unfortunately, it's also real in Iran. It's an ideological and misguiding presentation of the Western ideas in Iranian society. We are still here. The mullahs in Iran, they also use Western philosophy to reach to their own Islamic conclusions. For example, one of the most ideological clerical institutions in Iran published a book about the criticism of the modern sciences in the thoughts of Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon is the most famous British philosophers in 17th century. The author concluded that we can have something as religious sciences. Therefore, readers think that according to Francis Bacon, we can prove religious sciences, in contrary to the modern sciences. So I think this conclusion is ironic enough for you as European audiences. Islamic Republic and their theorists or apologists also interested in postmodernism and scientific anti-realism. You can see a big appetence toward the philosophers who had been skeptical in the validity of modern sciences, like Thomas Kuhn in his famous work, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, published in 1962, and also like Paul Feyerabend, in his work Against Method, Outline of an Anarchistic Theory of Knowledge, published in 1975. The same academic figures who taught these ideas are the selected ones in universities to pursue the project of academic oppression named Islamizing Humanities, ordered by the supreme leader. So this lady is Professor Margareta Gruber, expert in the New Testament, exegesis of and biblical theory from the Philosophy and Theology College of Wallender, as a privately maintained Catholic university in Germany. And the second, the man, is Professor Dr. Klaus von Stosch, in Catholic and Systematic Theology, expert in Catholic and Systematic Theology from the University of Paderborn, also in Deutschland or Germany. Both were presenting at the University of Religions and Denominations of Ulm, the most ideological university in the Islamic Republic, established and being supported by the very supreme leader. We will speak more about this university. This picture can also lies under a further category, besides representing the wrong image of the West. It shows the only misogynic state in the whole world with the discriminative rule of compulsory Islamic veil for every woman, even foreigners. You can see the difference of the same face in these two situations. So the last chapter is the example of violations against doing theology in the Islamic Republic. As we said, there is basic restrictions for all citizens in Iran in accord with Islamic constitution. There is general rejection for non-Muslims. As Kia told us in the first moments of our conference, we cannot have a Baha'i professor or Hindu professor in Iran. Even worse than that, there are many Baha'i students who've been expelled from the university just because of the religious belief. There is a limited possibility to live in Iran for followers of acknowledged religions in the eye of mullahs. I mean Jews, Christians, and Zoroastrians. However, just to clarify the case of Jews, it is quite shocking to know that almost 90% of them left the country after 1979, the Islamic Revolution. Prior to 1979, there were 100,000 Jews in Iran, in the whole country. And in 2007, the Jewish population decreased to less than 8,000. The sectarian ideology doesn't leave any place for other Islamic sect in Iran. For example, Sunnis have no right to build even a mosque in the capital city, Tehran. The mullahs, I mean Shia clerics, have also a severe obsession towards Sufis, non-believers, and those who have joined the new spiritual movements. Maybe it's hard to believe, but in Iran, some of the yoga teachers have been arrested and their centers have been closed due to some accusations such as trying to corrupt the pure Islamic culture. Doing theology in Iran is not confined only to public universities, non-profit ones, or universities which offer e-learning or without personal presence in courses. There are also many new-founded institutions and universities which have been supported directly by the supreme leader's financial empire. The ideological censorship dominates all academic atmospheres, regardless to their kind, in the whole country. I just mentioned 3 important examples of these new-founded universities. The subtitle is also clear: ideological control in budgets and new-founded institutions. The first, the institution of the Islamic wisdom of Mullah Sadra. Mullah Sadra is the Iranian Shia Islamic philosopher and theologian in the 17th century. The director is the brother of the supreme leader. The second, the Islamic Sciences Academy of Qom. The director is Muhammad Mehdi Mir Baqeri. The institution, this one, tries to create an Islamic science. They get a huge budget every year, and they are still trying to produce religious natural sciences. And the last one, the University of Religions and Denominations of Qom, which I showed you before with 2 professors from Germany invited in this center. The director is Abul Hassan Nawab. Surprisingly, this first university, this is the first university in the history of Iran which is dedicated its whole structure to the religious studies. It is quite meaningful that the Islamic Republic established this university with leadership of a person who is one of the most influential clerics in the financial empire of the supreme leader. Their message is clear: every research in this area should be under our direct control, and we decide which researcher and which topic is qualified for supporting, pursuing, or publishing. This is the University of Religions and Denominations of Qom. The director is Abul Hassan Nawab, the fat mullah with black turban. The last chapter is the last example of violations against doing academic theology. The subtitle is The Misguided Contents of Theology Courses in Iran. Doing theology in academies in contemporary Iran is nothing but traditional seminary teachings which disconnected from its origin sources and becomes resemble to a mere imperfect imitation without any kind of creativity. Let's be honest, there is no academy in Iran by Western definition in humanities. If the standard criteria for the academic progression is the rate of published articles in ISI and other international scientific journals, then the statistics say that, for example, in 2003, only 2 articles from Iran in the field of theology and religious studies have been published. In the traditional system of Shia seminary, there was a space and possibility to present the dissident ideas or old objections to the religious belief. Now, after emerging the Shia sovereignty, those rare positive points about seminary had gone. Because tradition has some problems, for sure, but an ideology derived from it is no longer tradition and is a total catastrophe. Unfortunately, the academy in Iran after 1979 lost its scientific measures and criteria to estimate its own validity and efficiency. And to bring some joyfulness to this theoretical presentation, I just want to sum up with this cartoon by Bob Stuck for Foreign Policy, named Ayatollah Under the Bed. So as an analogy, doing theology is like this cartoon. Mullahs and Khomeinists always want to be in the middle of the process between researchers and the themes of research. Thanks for your